those of you who subscribe to my alt channel, you already know that a few months back, I decided to challenge myself with a week-long bike ride through Death Valley as part of Climate Ride, which is a great organization that raises funds for countless sustainability and environmental causes. Unfortunately, that ride was canceled, likely due to climate change. In August of this year, Hurricane Hillary dropped more than a year's worth of rain in just a few days. It's a small amount of rain, but it's a lot to a desert. Flooded it, destroyed all the roads, shut down the entire park for 2 months. Now, obviously, you can't blame climate change for any specific hurricane, but you can note that scientists have been warning us that severe, strange weather events like this would become more frequent and more severe. The amount of rainfall Death Valley experienced in one day set a new record, which was previously set last year in an event that meteorologists called an extremely rare 1,000-year event. So yeah, it's safe to say it's a wee bit on the nose that Climate Ride was canceled thanks to a tropical storm hitting a Southern California desert. Luckily, the Climate Ride team leapt into action with their partners at REI, and they came up with a new ride through Joshua Tree. My friend Drew Curtis and I decided to go for it because it's not as badass to say you biked through Joshua Tree compared to Death Valley. But we've never been to Joshua Tree. We figured it would still be worth the effort. And I'm happy to say that it very much was worth the effort. Originally, I was only going to post about this trip over on my alt channel, where I've already posted some vlogs about the training, about how the ride was going, and then like some GoPro footage from each day's rides. But as I was sorting through all the footage to make one like overarching video about all of this, I started thinking more and more about the point of Climate Ride and how it directly relates to the videos I make here on my main channel. So I decided I would just come over here and talk a little bit about what I learned on the ride and share some of what I saw. If you have questions for me, you can leave them in the comments, and I'll make more videos over on the alt channel about things like the details of the ride, the training, stuff like that. Joshua Tree National Park encompasses 2 different deserts with very different terrain. We started the ride in the Mojave, which is the higher elevation and features the actual Joshua trees for which the park is named. They're found primarily in that place at that elevation because they only thrive at lower temperatures at the higher elevations. That means that they're particularly at risk for global warming, with research suggesting that by the end of the 21st century, humans will have eliminated 80 to 90% of their habitat if we don't drastically cut emissions. One reason scientists are worried about the Joshua Tree is because its primary method of migration was the giant Shasta ground sloth, which went extinct 13,000 years ago due to, climate change and human predation and habitat destruction. Cool, very cool. Great, love to hear it. On the second day, we descended into the Colorado desert where we learned about the teddy bear cactus and its very spicy hugs.
They detach very, very easily, so that's actually part of their survival tactic. All these plants are asexual, so they start taking root when small sections of it fall off. Sometimes the wind is enough to do it, or the rain, or like a foolish animal or something like that. So basically, like if you were to look at these spines under a microscope, they have reverse barbs on them, just like a fish hook, basically. So as animals are like traipsing through the desert, like these sections of the plant will attach to it, the animal will carry it along through the desert, and then it'll just like drop down on the floor and start taking root, just like one of these guys over here. And that's how all of this has been propagated, more or less.
Now, there are many species of fauna in the park. I only got to see some tarantulas, some lizards, a particularly annoyed rattlesnake, but there's also desert tortoises, bighorn sheep, jackrabbits, mule deer, more than 250 species of bird. The desert is very much a living place. On day 3, we biked to the shore of the Salton Sea, which itself hosts more than 400 species of birds, making it one of the most important sites for bird conservation in the United States. For millennia, the lake has appeared and disappeared based on the changing flow of the Colorado River. The current lake formed when the California governor had an irrigation canal constructed about 100 years ago. This began a series of fuck-ups and attempted fixes, and floods, and basically floodwaters rushed into the basin, completely drowning the town of Salton, a railroad, a salt harvesting plant, and the Torres Martinez tribal land. Evaporating water levels combined with agricultural runoff to create an environmental disaster, leaving the bird and fish population there devastated. The only remaining native fish is the endangered desert pupfish, which can survive a wide range of salinities. Fun fact about the pupfish, they mate by jerking it. No, really, compatible males and females will come in contact and collectively jerk in an S shape. Each jerk typically produces a single egg that is fertilized by the male and deposited in his territory. Today, the lake smells horrible, smells like rotten eggs, and there is no appropriately large-scale project in place to fix what has been happening. But there is something interesting happening that could change things for the better, maybe. It turns out that the Salton Sea is a huge source of lithium, which humans are consuming more and more of, particularly in the development of certain green technologies like electric cars and solar panels. Scientists have developed a new method of extracting lithium in a way that is far less damaging to the environment than previous methods. The Salton Sea sits on top of the San Andreas Fault, meaning it has a lot of geothermal activity. Several plants are already there, turning that activity into energy by extracting hot brine, using that steam to drive turbines, and then re-injecting the brine back into underground aquifers. But that brine also contains lithium, which means that in addition to getting geothermal energy, these companies can also provide the United States with a key ingredient in other green technologies before they return the brine back to the aquifers. This method, known as direct lithium extraction, is way more sustainable than traditional open-air mining. It uses less water, it puts out less CO2, and it uses this existing geothermal infrastructure. And this industry could bring new jobs and wealth to California's poorest communities. The problem? Same as always, capitalism. These communities were also promised wealth and jobs by the agricultural industry and the geothermal industry, and instead, they just keep getting hosed while the rich get richer. So, if this lithium thing is going to happen, the corporations hoping to cash in on it are going to require serious oversight to make sure that they don't just do Salton Sea 2 the revenge. Speaking of capitalism, our final days were spent biking to and from Julian, California, a gold rush town that in the 1990s tried to stop fast food restaurants from moving in and putting local businesses under. A local owned the main well from which the town got most of its water, and he threatened to stop access to the water if they didn't let him build a Dairy Queen and a Subway. So they let those things be built, but everyone in town just sort of agreed not to patronize them, and they went out of business. So collective action, it works. And, that was one of my takeaways from this trip. I mean, I've always been critical of blaming individual choices for systemic problems like climate change, but I also don't think that doomerism and surrender is helpful. There's power in coming together with like-minded individuals to do something, however small, to advance society. In the case of this climate ride, we raised more than $172,000 for beneficiaries like the California Bicycle Coalition, the Union of Concerned Scientists, and Vida Verde Nature Education, a nonprofit that takes low-income students out into the wilderness to teach them a love of nature and develop critical thinking skills. Thank you, by the way, to everyone who chipped in to make this ride happen. I appreciate it, and future generations appreciate it. And I think it's a really good example of how, we can say individual action pales in comparison to making systemic changes, but individual action can slowly become this collective action when you start adding 5, 10, 30 other bike riders, and then 10, 20, 100 donors who start getting involved and start caring, you really start building something. And so as you can guess, it's about more than just the financials. Yes, those beneficiaries are going to go on to do more good with that money. But there's also the good that comes from each person who participated in the ride. And I hope even for those of you who donated to the ride and who have been following along with my videos about it, as I mentioned in my video about ocean cleanup way back when, research suggests that hands-on collective action like beach cleanups are not only beneficial for the local coastline and its inhabitants, they appear to have a wider educational value that may bring further environmental benefits in the future. In addition, they were shown to benefit individual well-being and strengthen individuals' environmental citizenship by increasing pro-environmental behavioral intention. And on a personal note, training for this ride has made it possible for me to now ride my bike to places I otherwise would have needed my car because I can now handle the incredibly steep hills that I live on. And riding through Joshua Tree made me learn more about the unique ways that climate change and human mismanagement is negatively impacting this beautiful, wild environment. And it makes me more motivated to do what I can to help. So again, thanks to everyone who helped me on what started out as a personal challenge, but ended up feeling like something important. If you're intrigued by all of this, I highly recommend you check out Climate Ride's upcoming events, which include not just week-long bike trips, but also hiking, skiing. There are shorter trips for people of all skill levels. And, let me know in the comments if you're booking a trip, because I'm pretty sure this isn't going to be my last climate ride.
Did you have one of the pickles?
This is Derek.
Did you have one of the pickles?
Yeah,
I did have one of the
pickles.
Yeah, they're legit.
Did you use a lot of sugar in this?
No.
It's what's that called when salt is good for you because you're exercising?
Wishful thinking.
What is it?
I'll take a swig of it. Thinking.
Electrolytes.
Wishful thinking.
Nice. Good boy. That's
All right.
You
What was that? That was like $1's worth.
dropped the level. How does it feel?
Good. I'm not really warm.
He's gonna be shitting fire later.
Look at this.
Hey,
Breakfast of champions.
This is technically hazing, you realize, right?
he likes it.
Look, I'm
It's still hazing.
gonna finish this. All right?
I think he's about to get $5.
He likes it. It's just the thing he's doing.
Mikey likes it.
Don't forget the detritus at the bottom.
Look at that.
Chug, chug, chug.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you loved the video, please subscribe. And if you think the world could use more videos like this and you happen to have a few bucks laying around, head to patreon.com/Rebecca and join an awesome community of nerds like the people whose names you see on the screen right now. Thanks.
I'm impressed.